Hey there, Contractor Cat here with Overseas Contractor Academy, and today we're going to be talking about what my experiences were working in Kandahar, Afghanistan. So this is going to be for people who are looking at going over to Afghanistan and are trying to figure out, is this a good base, is that a good base? We're going to do a series on a couple of places I've worked over there or places that I know about over there so that you can kind of make a better and informed decision about whether that's the kind of right fit for you or if you'd like something else. Stay tuned. Okay, so Kandahar, Afghanistan. What is Kandahar like? Well, to understand that, first I need to explain that basically you have in Afghanistan a big base in the north and a big base in the south. So if you're looking at going over there, really the big question, there are some other bases of course, but you've got Bagram, which is where the flagpole is, so to speak. That's where all the generals are. That's the big base in the north. And then for southern Afghanistan, you have Kandahar, which is really much more of a NATO base, whereas Bagram's going to be a US kind of specific US run installation. Okay, so if you're in the south, you're probably either going to be working in Kandahar or you're going to be working at a satellite base of Kandahar, which will be a smaller location that is dependent on Kandahar for its transport needs and its logistical support and all that kind of stuff. So you would probably, anywhere in the south, you're going to fly into Kandahar and then from there get transported out to your base. But because Kandahar is the biggest base in the south, obviously the odds are that you're going to just get a job on Kandahar. So the big thing about Kandahar that makes it different than almost any other location in Afghanistan is the fact that it's a big NATO base. And so you're going to have people from Denmark and Poland and all these other locations, and it's a lot of an international kind of feel to the place. Whereas if you're up in Bagram, up in the north, it's very US specific. All the generals are walking around in US military uniforms. So it's really easy to understand if a general's walking by and he's got stars on his shoulders, okay, that's the big guy. You probably don't want to talk to him, don't want to cut in front of him in line at the chow hall, whatever. But when you're looking at all these other countries' uniforms, it's really kind of hard to tell who's what rank, because you know they could be 5 stars on their shoulder and they're just a little peon guy. Who knows? But anyways, it's kind of cool in that you will meet a lot of interesting people from a lot of interesting places, like Romania and Germany and all these European nations that are part of the NATO pact, and they're working over there in southern Afghanistan. So you as an American, it's a good chance to meet other people from other countries if you're the social type and you like to sit around and have a chat with someone that's from a very different background than you. So one of the big features of Kandahar is what they call the boardwalk. Now the boardwalk is basically a strip of a bunch of restaurants. There's KFC, believe it or not, there's a TGI Fridays, I think. Obviously not going to serve the typical TGI Fridays alcohol, but you can get like a burger and fries, chicken sandwich, chicken fingers, chicken nuggets, whatever the heck you want. As well as, of course, the usual shawarma slash doner slash whatever, grilled chicken, French fries, whatever. There'll be different restaurants along where they've kind of made this boardwalk area, and it's a square that sits around a soccer field. So what everyone does is gets some food, sits there, and watches a bunch of people play soccer every night. So that's kind of the boardwalk is the main feature. There's a Pizza Hut, there's a Burger King, I believe, and a bunch of international type restaurants as well, because remember it's a NATO base, so they've got to cater to all kinds of needs. So there's not just the dining facilities that the military runs, you have a lot of options when it comes to food, and basically you're on a base. There's not a lot to do. So something interesting to do after you've worked your 12-hour shift is after work, maybe you and your friends are going to go down to the boardwalk, get something to eat, watch the guys play soccer, maybe have a shake. They have little vanilla shakes, protein shakes, crap like that there. They used to have, at least when I was there. There's gold shops as well, and tailors, all that kind of stuff is down there on the boardwalk. But mostly people just get food and watch everyone play soccer, and they sit around and have a chat. Okay, so there is one downside to going to Kandahar, and that is that it is overcrowded. The lodging at Kandahar is kind of in a tough spot, especially if you're working for one of the big major defense companies that are there, that are operating, that they just have thousands and thousands and thousands of people coming in and out. So obviously, because they have so many positions, odds are high that if you're coming into this and you're a first-time contractor, you're probably going to be with one of those bigger companies as opposed to a smaller company that's real specialized, and they're only going to hire really experienced contractors, things of that nature. So if you're newer, you're going to be working for one of these big people, and unfortunately, because they've got thousands coming in and out, the housing is a bit of an issue. And so you first come into Kandahar, you will be placed in a big open bay tent, unfortunately. And so you might have to spend 1, 2, even 3 nights, maybe even 4 nights in a big 50-person open bay tent, sleeping with your luggage right beside you, group showers, and that kind of sucks. But bear in mind, you're getting paid 10 grand a month and no taxes and no expenses. So there are trade-offs. You just got to grit your teeth and put up with it. Eventually you will get moved into a room. You could have a roommate, you could have multiple roommates. It depends on, every company has basically their own sort of footprint within the base, where, you know, some base planning person has said, okay, company X, that's your area over there. And however they set it up, that's how they set it up. So if your company that you work for usually puts 2 or 3 people in a room, then guess what? You're going to have 2 roommates. So some companies, the kind that don't have thousands of people coming and going, and they really are specialized and they're only going to hire really experienced contractors, they may get lucky, and they, with their footprint, have set it up to where everyone's got their own room. And they worry more about people turning over because of bad living conditions. They don't want that happening, and so basically they're going to give everyone their own room, and that's great, you know, if you can get into that situation. But odds are, if you go to Kandahar and you're a newer contractor, you're going to be working for one of those bigger companies. And that's going to mean having to go into that big open bay tent when you first get there, and then perhaps getting into a place where it's either you and 1 roommate, you and another 2 roommates, or if you're upper management, you might get a room on your own, but don't count on it if you're going to Kandahar. Okay, so that's it. Kandahar in a nutshell is basically the big base in the south. It is kind of crowded because the footprint is divided up between many NATO countries, and so the US contractor companies that are over there have smaller space to put their people, which means a little more packing them in kind of situation, where so you might not get your own room if you go to Kandahar. Some people do, some people don't. It's a crapshoot. You can ask your recruiter when you're being recruited or you're being interviewed, but odds are even your recruiter's actually not going to have the answer. They're only going to know that on the ground, and which means you're not going to know until you go there. But as always, the trade-off is $10,000, $12,000, maybe even $15,000 a month, tax-free, expense-free. Grit your teeth, put up with it for a while, get your contractor experience, pile up that contractor money, and then take it on and find yourself a better position with better living conditions. Okay, so if you like what we did, give us a like, of course. A good thumbs up always lets us know whether we're on track or not. Maybe give us a comment or a question. And of course, you can visit us on our website at overseascontractoracademy.com and kind of see the information that we present there. So until next time, roll up your sleeves, get your ass to work overseas. It'll set you free. Thanks for watching.